Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is Ryan Griffin, and I am so honored to be here to play a couple of my songs for you, tell you my story. It all kind of started down in South Florida, crammed in between my two older brothers in the back of my mama's station wagon. She always played DJ, and, you know, the soundtrack of my childhood, she kind of dictated, and thank God she did, because she loved Brooks and Dunn, she loved George Strait, she loved Vince Gill, Colin Ray, really like any singers. And I always say George taught me how to write a song and tell a story, and Vince taught me how to sing it. This is one of the first songs I ever learned. Whoa, the lonely sound of my voice calling is driving me insane. And just like rain, the tears keep falling, and nobody answered when I called your name. Oh, nobody answered, no, when I called your name. And so, you know, from there, so much of my musical influence came from like my older brothers and my friends at school. And my older brothers and I have two older brothers, and we would pool all of our money together on Friday, and we go to the local record store. It was called Peaches. And we would start in the country section, and then we'd go over to the rock section and kind of see what was out. And then I'd kind of sneak off and meander over to like the hip hop and R&B section. And that's when I found like Usher and Boyz II Men, Casey and JoJo. But the first record I ever bought with my own money was a Brian McKnight record called Anytime. And I'll never forget, like, buying this record. I was so proud. I had my little 3-disc boom box in my middle school bedroom, and I would play that record over and over again, sitting on my little trundle bed, like, just learning all the licks, all the runs, because, you know, I mean, there's no better singer, in my opinion, than Brian McKnight. And so this song kind of changed my world and introduced me to a whole different way of singing, and also got me through my first heartbreak. It's called Anytime. So do I ever cross your mind anytime? Do you ever wake up reaching out for me? Do I ever cross your mind anytime, anytime? Oh, I miss you. Oh, yeah. I said, baby, I miss you. Oh, baby, I miss you. And so once I kind of heard Brian sing, I was all in. You know, I grew up with this little bit of a country twang, so I knew I was going to be in country music. That's where I always wanted to be. And I just had to figure out a way to get to Nashville. My biggest thing was, you know, Mom and Dad wanted me to go to college. And right after middle school, you know, I grew up in South Florida, salt water in my veins. We had a house down in the Keys, went fishing all the time. So, you know, I grew up on the water. And right around 8th grade, like when I graduated middle school, my folks were like, hey, guess what? We're moving to Ocala. And I was like, what is Ocala? Ocala, Florida. That doesn't sound like a place that exists. And they said, it's right above Orlando. Don't worry. It's beautiful. We have a 20-acre farm. We're going to get horses and cows and all this stuff. And I'm like, I'm living in the big city, going to the Keys every weekend, and now you're going to take me to rural Georgia, basically. And so we went up there. I went up there kicking and screaming, and it ended up being one of the best moves for me, like musically in my career, because there were so many other opportunities for me to play live and perform, you know, 4-H clubs, strawberry festivals. The first artist I ever opened for was Neil McCoy at a 4-H club on the back of a hay trailer. That's when I realized I was allergic to hay. that was a lot of fun. But I'll never forget this moment driving down our little quarter-of-a-mile driveway to the main road. I was running late for school. You know, I was, you know, freshman, junior, maybe, sophomore, I don't remember, in high school. And this song came on the radio, and it literally stopped me dead in my tracks. I put the car in park in the middle of the driveway, turned the radio up, sat there and closed my eyes. And I was like, this is what I've been waiting on, this song. And it kind of gave me, like, granted me, I don't know, this, like, I guess permission or acceptance to, like, move to Nashville. And I raced home after school that day, and I told my mom and dad, I said, I'm going to Nashville. I'm going to be a country music singer. And they're like, yeah, well, we already knew that. And I was like, no, but I'm really going. Nobody ever left my hometown. Like, everybody, my parents, my brothers, they all live within like 5 miles of each other. So I was like, no, I'm really doing it. And they said, cool, well, where are you going to college? And I was like, ugh. So anyways, this song kind of changed everything for me, and it's a Keith Urban song called You'll Think of Me. I woke up early this morning around 4 a.m. with the moon shining bright as headlights on the interstate. Pulled the covers over my head and tried to catch some sleep, but the thoughts of us kept keeping me awake. See, ever since you found yourself in someone else's arms, I've been trying my best to get along, but that's okay, there's nothing left to say. So you take your records, take your freedom, take your memories, I don't need them. Take your space and take your reasons, but you'll think of me, yeah. And take your cat and leave my sweater, 'cause we got nothing left to weather. In fact, I feel a whole lot better. You'll think of me, you'll think of me, yeah. Oh, baby, you'll think of me. So I was like, yo, how do I get to Nashville? I got to go to college. So I ended up getting into Belmont University, realizing that I was a, big fish in a small pond kind of in Ocala, and you get to Belmont and you're like, holy cow, there's so many talented people. And so iron sharpens iron. We just, I got my crew and we just started writing and playing out and doing all of our stuff and just seeing, getting better at our craft. And the internship program comes around like sophomore year of Belmont. And so I got an internship at Broken Bow Records. This was right around the time that they were launching Jason Aldean. And so I would sit in the mail room and I'm like sending out the Hicktown single or whatever to radio. It was back when it was on CDs. And Jason walked in one day and we would always kind of like talk and hang out. And he said, hey, Griff, he's like, I'm going to play the biggest show of my life this weekend at Billy Bob's in Texas. I need some extra hands. You want to come out on the road with me? I was like, are you in a bus? He said, yeah. I was like, dope, let's go. So we hopped on the bus, and I ended up staying out there for 8 months with him and just like kind of being his interim tour manager until he could afford one, And I think he paid me $400 a month just to cover my rent. And I was just out there like learning and grinding, and we were all kind of learning together, and it was a really cool experience. But I told him, we called him Peach back in the day, and I said, Peach, you know that I want to be behind the mic, not behind the stage. And he's like, I know. They used to call me like the little boy, the bird that sings or something like that. Sings like a bird, because I go do sound checks for him and everything. And he was like, I get it, dude. Blessings, go do your thing. So I went back to school. Finished up my senior year, and at the end of my senior year, I walk into this apartment party. I swear it was the last party that I went to in college. 37D. Walked in, to the left, first thing I hear is this like angelic laugh, just infectious. And I look over and I'm like, oh, I got to go over there and talk to that girl. I haven't seen her around campus. And so get a little liquid courage, go over there, sit down, try to be as smooth as possible, and y'all, I am not smooth, so I don't know how it worked, but ended up getting her number, and we ended up hanging out for a couple months, and I'm like, yo, we're about to put a label on this thing. We're going to be in a relationship. Well, she calls me one night, and she's like, hey, Ryan, I just really needed to talk to my best friend, and I'm like, uh-oh. And she goes, that guy, that soccer player I've been into for a little while? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well, I'm really into this soccer player, and I just don't know what to do because he kind of only calls me at night, and I'm not that kind of girl, we all know what that means, and yada, yada, yada. And I'm doing my best to sit here and not be like, this guy's a tool, but whatever. And so I end up pulling like the last card I had out of my pocket, basically, and I took her down to Florida. And I was like, I'm going to come down to Florida for spring break, and we're going to hang out in the Keys, and I'm going to introduce you to my family and all this kind of stuff. Just as friends, just as friends. And she ended up coming down to Florida, and we've been married for 10 years now, together 15 years, and we got 2 little baby boys. So it worked. But when I'm sitting in writers' rooms, I'm always trying to think of, like, what experiences have I been through that I feel like everybody else can relate to and has been through in some sort of way or, like, shape or form. And so I ended up taking that experience and writing this song called Love Don't. Bet you're wiping off your lipstick, slipping out your heels and zipping your dress. I can hear the TV on in the background and that bottle of red in your voice. When you say you're falling off the deep end, he's everything you've ever needed. But you call me up when he let you down, and damn, we've been talking a lot. 'Cause love don't leave you all alone, waiting by the phone, hoping that it's gonna light up on a Friday. Love don't test you from the back of a last call cab, saying you up and in your driveway, call it a late night fling. Maybe too many drinks, lonely doing what it does. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but if you're thinking about calling it love, don't. You talking about him like he's a one. Your mama thinks he's an answer to a prayer. You make it look like you got what everybody wants, but you only tell him what you want him to hear. 'Cause love don't leave you all alone, waiting by the phone, hoping that it's gonna light up on a Friday. Love don't test you from the back of a last call cab, saying you up and in your driveway, call it a late night fling. Maybe too many drinks, lonely doing what it does. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but if you're thinking about calling it love, don't. No, no, baby, don't. Oh, baby, you should know by now. You should know by now. Yeah. Oh, baby, you should know by now. If you don't know by now, love don't leave you all alone, waiting by the phone, hoping that it's gonna light up on a Friday. Love don't text you from the back of a last call cab, saying you up and in your driveway, call it a late night fling. Maybe too many drinks, lonely doing what it does. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but if you're thinking about calling it love, don't. Baby, don't. I held that cough the whole time, guys. But anyways, there's a lot of story to fill in between, but graduated college, got a publishing deal, started writing, twice a day, trying to just figure out my sound, figure out what I wanted to say. And, had a couple record deals in between that fell apart for one reason or another. And, the craziest part of the story is that I guess it was February of 21, I got a phone call from the label I was on, and just out of the blue, they were like, yo, we're so sorry, pandemic, we got to cut 5 people, last in, first out. And I was like scheduled to be like their artist for 2021. So it was kind of like this weird turn of events, bittersweet thing. And Blake Shelton actually had this song on hold for a little while. And this song, it was like, oh, we're going to base the whole record around it, all this kind of stuff. And this is a Blake Shelton #1. And then I get a phone call a week after I get dropped from the label, and they're like, hey, sorry, buddy, Blake's not going to end up cutting that song. And so, add an insult to injury, you know, I kind of sulked for about a week. My mom and dad came up, and I have an amazing family, guys. And my wife goes, hey, why don't you just take all this music that you've been writing for 10 years that everybody seems to love and put it on, like, social media? And she goes, you got nothing to lose. And I was like, oh, too soon. Ouch. You know? And so I end up doing that, and I take a couple songs. My dad's with me, you know, I'm getting, like, reaction videos and stuff in the car with him. And I throw this one song up an evening, and the next morning, my wife runs in the room, and she's like, Ryan, get up, look at TikTok, look at TikTok. And I look, and it's like 1 million views, 2 million views, 6 million views, and it's just going, like, massively viral. And I call it the little song that could, because it's called Salt, Lime, and Tequila, and this song has literally changed my life in every way possible. And, you know, it's been amazing. I wrote this song over Zoom in the middle of the pandemic, and it was like the day that my wife and I were about to break. Everybody had, like, their breaking point in the pandemic. My kids were screaming downstairs. I'm sitting upstairs trying to write, and the guys go, who I'm in the room with, they said, the Zoom room, if you will, they said, what do you want to write today? And I was like, I don't know, something to just make my kids, you know, hush up and just kind of like, take life with a grain of salt kind of vibe, you know? And then the one writer said lime, and the other writer said tequila, and we laughed, and we're like, oh, that's so funny. Wait a second, that's a song. And so we ended up writing Salt, Lime, and Tequila in about an hour or so, and we knew when we got done with it that it was a special song. I got to play it at the Opry, made my Opry debut not long ago, and the entire place was singing it back to me. It was one of the most special moments I've ever had in my career thus far, and I am so thankful that I can officially say this is my first song to country radio, guys, and it's called Salt, Lime, and Tequila. Boys lost that game on Sunday, gotta work a double on Monday. I wish that stack of bills go on and pay themselves. And that glass looks half empty, I fill it up, don't let it get me down. If I know one thing, you gotta take it all with a grain of salt. Yeah, lime and tequila, it all gets to fading with one. Yeah, 2, maybe 3 margaritas. Throw 'em back and watch 'em wash all your worries away. At the end of the day, all you gotta do is take life with a grain of salt. Yeah, lime and tequila. Now, ain't much worth stressing over, let it roll right off your shoulder. Time flies and life is short, so why not have one more with a dash on the rim? Pour it strong, mix it in, and it don't go your way. Take it on with a grain of salt. Yeah, lime and tequila, it all gets to fading with one. Yeah, 2, maybe 3 margaritas. Throw 'em back and watch 'em wash all your worries away. At the end of the day, all you gotta do is take life with a grain of salt. Oh yeah, lime and tequila. Yeah. Just a dash on the rim, pour it strong, mix it in. Yeah, you know what they say, take it on with a grain of salt. Yeah, lime and tequila, it all gets to fading with one, 2, maybe 3 margaritas. Throw 'em back and watch 'em wash all your worries away. At the end of the day, all you gotta do is take life with a grain of salt. Oh yeah, lime and tequila. I said salt, lime and tequila. Tequila. Thank you guys so much for hanging out, and hearing my story and a little bit of music. God bless y'all. Thank you.